Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. Hello everyone, welcome to Dice Commando and the Commando Cast. I'm Andrew with you here as always, and thank you very much for joining me yet again for this week's chat. So today I want to talk about the rate of change in Star Wars Destiny. Now, to be clear, this is kind of an industry-wide gaming issue. However, we in the Destiny community, specifically the folks at the Reigns, have a very unique opportunity now that we're flying solo and kind of driving this on our own to slow it down, pump the brakes a little bit, and really improve our game for the long haul. Hello everyone, thanks for joining me again for today's discussion. I hope everyone in the United States had a great holiday weekend this last weekend. I got the opportunity to hang out with multiple portions of my family, albeit under COVID restrictions, as you guys can imagine. For those of you not in the US, collectively around the globe, whatever you celebrate or choose not to, we're all going into collectively the holiday season. I know that for myself, that's often a very stressful time, so I'm glad that we all have this that we can tune into together and, forget about life and work and end of the year projects and all that stuff just for a couple minutes and chat. So what I specifically wanted to talk about today was the rate of change in Star Wars Destiny. Now, what do I mean specifically by rate of change? What I'm talking about is, basically the rate at which new mechanics are being introduced. And I'm not talking about new cards, right? For many out there that, I'm sure that rate of change could mean new stuff being added, which could include cards. But specifically, I'm talking about mechanics themselves. Now, before we get into this discussion, I do have to kind of harken back to, the big beast in every conversation, which is Magic the Gathering. Magic has... The reason we're talking about Magic is because Magic has basically set the industry standard, if you will, the industry baseline for how things work, right? Magic has, in general, a 3-set rotation, or a 3-set block, right? And then they set their block rotations. Destiny, for better or worse, really kind of mimicked that. I actually think it was for worse for Destiny, because I don't think they're really in the same boat. But that's why I'm talking about Magic, right? So fundamentally, when Magic would release a block, quote unquote, it was a 3-set block similar to Destiny. And what they would really do is they'd introduce kind of a new mechanic, or they'd have some sort of spin mechanic, some sort of theme that would be introduced in the first set. And over the next 2 sets, keeping that original theme or that original mechanic in mind, they would take advantage of that mechanic and branch off of that mechanic to really expand the block. But then when the block would rotate, they would introduce a new mechanic. The old mechanic, or the previous mechanic, I should say, would kind of fall to the wayside. And that was the way they would keep cycling through as it was. Now, Star Wars Destiny, we'll go through the full history in a set-by-set blow in a second, but what I've been noticing in Star Wars Destiny is it didn't really introduce new mechanics, at least in the later sets. It didn't really introduce new mechanics on a block-by-block basis, but rather a set-by-set basis. And I believe that fundamentally that led Destiny to really ramp out of control very quickly. Now, there are a lot of arguments to be made that FFG maybe knew the game was dying, or not dying, they knew that they were going to kill the game, so maybe they were trying to force in everything they could. I think certainly that's what we saw in Transformations. I don't think many people can argue with that. They're trying to slip in a lot of ideas they had. But either way, that pure acceleration of mechanics makes it very hard to control. Fundamentally, think about it, right? That makes it very hard to control, even from like a playtesting or a design side, right? The more you introduce new stuff, the less chance you have to get a handle on that to develop it, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping, is that instead of, I don't want there to be we're looking at keeping Star Wars Destiny alive we collectively as a community are looking at keeping it alive for ever, hopefully, right? So, what's the rush to get all of do we need to introduce a new mechanic every set? And I guess that's kind of where I'm going. Is I would really like to see us pump the brakes and maybe slow it down. So let's go ahead and take a look at the history of Star Wars Destiny in terms of mechanics to kind of highlight what I'm talking about. Now, Awakenings obviously was the base set, so that doesn't count. Now, Spirit of Rebellion, to be fair, didn't really introduce any new mechanics. However, it really just expanded on Awakenings, but that's A, what we needed at the time, and B, I'm relatively certain that Awakenings and Spirit of Rebellion were designed together, right? And either the decision was made to split it up, because that would have been roughly 320-ish, 340-ish cards, which would have been like a base set for Magic. I think they designed together and decided to split it. Either way, we both know they were designed before the game hit. So they weren't really introducing anything, they were just expanding on it. You can make the argument that they introduced more action cheating in that, but I think that was already an existing mechanic, or just building on new stuff, really just giving more tools. Now, when Empire at War came out, that set was very specifically focused on improving support viability. Now, did it succeed at that? I don't think it did. It really just kind of introduced Sabine and Cad, which kind of had action cheating, right? More action cheating, and some other problems that came out of that. But fundamentally, they were trying to cap off that set with a focus on supports. Then we move into the next block, the Legacies block. And Legacies itself introduced a bunch, right? I mean, aside from indirect damage. Remember, we hadn't seen indirect damage before Legacies, which was a fantastic, probably the best new mechanic we've ever seen in the game. But also introduced plots, which also may be one of the better mechanics, if you will, that we've seen in the game. And it also introduced power actions. So Legacies was a major set, and Way of the Force, to be fair, Way of the Force didn't really introduce any hugely new mechanics, right? We had the pod racer thing, which, always kind of smelled like that was supposed to be more, but it never really did. But fundamentally, there were no real hugely new mechanics that came out of the Way of the Force, just kind of continued to expand on Legacies. But then we hit Across the Galaxy, which was a major set change. I mean, that introduced mods. But more than introducing mods, it really pushed supports. I mean, I don't think you can argue that ATG pushed supports into the forefront. I mean, that was the first major, huge support meta we saw, and I don't know that we've really ever backed off of it. Then we entered Convergence block, right? Convergence obviously pushed Tribal, but it also introduced downgrades. So now, okay, so we're in a new block. That's fine. Let's introduce some stuff. Let's keep Tribal going, and they did keep the Tribal theme going through that block. But then you look at Spirit of Rebellion, and then we introduce Diceless characters. And then we go to Covert missions, and we introduce Elite Non-Uniques and piloting, huge mechanic. So you see, at the beginning, I mean, and I'm not talking the first two, but over the course of the original part of Destiny, it was like, okay, mechanic, support that mechanic. But as Destiny really ended, it just kind of kept that ramp going, and it just kind of went kind of hyperbolic on us there. And it was just like new mechanic, new mechanic, new mechanic, new mechanic, new mechanic. So the question I have, or kind of the thought that I have is like, in order to make things sexy, for lack of a better term, we had to make new stuff. And I agree, we do. But does it have to be every set? Right? Wouldn't it be more appropriate to do it on a block basis? I mean, to be fair, Magic doesn't do that anymore. Magic has all new mechanics coming out all the time. And maybe that's just the way the industry is now. But we're not the industry anymore, right? We're doing it ourselves. So is it more appropriate for us to kind of pump the brakes, back off a little bit, and say, hey, here's going to be, set. And, to be fair, FA is actually, I mean, it's built around Wild Horizons, so it's actually not like, FA in the next set, whatever it may be, a question mark set. Is that going to then end the block? I mean, either way, point aside, I really hope we don't see a new mechanic, right? I mean, FA introduced spies and detect, right? That's a brand new mechanic. It would be great to continue to expand on that, especially with how small the FA set was. It would be great to continue to expand on that in the next set versus introducing yet another mechanic and then maybe having that being supported, maybe not. I mean, and I know I'm jumping around here in my arguments, but like, does anybody really feel that mods as a mechanic was fully explored? I mean, granted, there's not that much to it, I get it. But like, I think by and large, we can agree that mods themselves weren't fully explored, right? I mean, more could have been done with mods. Now, did we want a whole block of mods? Probably not, I grant you that. But it could have been more than a set. And, it just as a side note, it kind of led to one other problem I've always had with Destiny, which was cross-block support. You look at, like Infus Nest and all, like the the Indifferent, the card that was letting a neutral remove a die, right, is a basic support for Infus Nest. Infus Nest clearly was meant to come out with Han and ATG because that was kind of like the solo movie across blocks, but then when one rotates, they're not in with each other. So that always bugged me as well. I mean, you can't completely get around that, but my point is here, right? They weren't even. It was like at the end of Destiny, it almost seemed like they weren't even mattering on the blocks. It was just new mechanic, new mechanic, new mechanic, and we really have an opportunity now to kind of refocus and make 2 or 3 sets with the same mechanic, right? Come up with detect, and then expand and really make it robust and look into what detect can bring to the table instead of just saying, well, this is detect. And to be clear, I'm not picking on the FA guys here or the ARH guys here, right? I don't know what they have in plan in terms of developing a detect. I assume they will. So maybe I shouldn't have been choosing detect. It was just the first thing that came to mind, right? So let's use mods, right? Do we need only one set with mods? No, let's explore what mods can do. Let's explore what detect can do. Let's explore what downgrades can. Well, they did on downgrades. That's fair, but that was a card type. I guess what I'm saying here is we don't need a new thing every set, right? Especially because we're looking at, like, eventually we're going to run out of ideas and have to start recycling stuff. Magic did. Magic has run out of stuff and started recycling ideas. Like, we're good. We are. Like, we have some very, very smart people on our side, but, like, we're just not going to be that creative forever. So let's pump the brakes. Let's come up with a great idea. Let's develop that idea, explore that idea as much as we can, and then hit it home and kind of move on. So that's kind of my piece today. Let me know, am I a crazy person? Like, is change necessary? Is that, I guess that's really the question. Is like, is that aggressive rate of change necessary to keep people interested? I personally don't think so. But what do you think? Like, if you had 2 sets or 3 sets of mods, would you have gotten bored? Maybe. That's completely reasonable. So let me know what you're thinking. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate you guys joining me every week. If nothing else, guys, go Commando.